The biggest blessing is honestly that you have Allah with you firstly. If those opportunities and challenges weren't there for me, I wouldn't become the person I am today. One of the biggest mentors in my life, after my mother, is my father, obviously. Your parents, they come first. I think one of the challenges I faced over here was reading in Urdu. If you look at academic-wise from a secular basis of studies, I would say that there's a lot of opportunity over here. Binoria Media, alhamdulillah, it's a good opportunity for students who are studying in madaris that want to, perfect this field.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I'm Hashir and welcome back to our Introductory Series. Today we have a really special guest who made his way all the way from America. Without further ado, let's get started. Assalamu alaikum, Nana. How are you?
Alhamdulillah, how are you, brother?
Alhamdulillah. Let's start with your name.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. My name is Abdul Haadi. I'm from America. I live in Houston, Texas, and I was born in New York, Amsterdam, New York. And
mashallah. So welcome to our introductory series here. And inshallah, hopefully we'll have a really interacting conversation, something that'll be really productive for us and for our listeners. So you said born in New York, then migrated to Texas. So yes. How did that come about?
So us moving as a family to Houston started off with the journey of my elder brother, Muhammad Saad, becoming Hafiz of the Quran. There was a time in our life where our parents decided, the eldest son should become Hafiz. That was one of their dreams. So they were looking for madaris or masajid all across America and like a proper place to move where, there's a community where you can practice your deen. Because where we used to live in New York at that time, we would have to drive about 1.5 hours for Jummah. So we were really far from, a lot of the population over there.
A supporting community.
Right. And because of that, my father actually, he had planned this out that we were going to move to Houston, and that masjid, which was close to our house where my brother, he graduated as a Hafiz from, that was actually 2 minutes from my house. 2
minutes.
2 minutes.
You guys got a really...
So we would walk sometimes. We'd take the car sometimes, but it was really accessible in the sense where if you had to go pray, you can get there on time.
Yeah, mashallah. No, I heard personally Texas has a really huge community when it comes to, Muslims.
Right. And it's a very diverse, mixed community. You have people from Bangladesh, Pakistanis.
That's really nice to know. So how did you come to know about Binoria and what got you to come here as you said, where you finished your Aalamia program?
So there were many reasons to why I came to Binoria. Firstly is obviously previous years, two of our senior students from our previous madrasa, Michigan Islamic Institute, that came here for Dawra Hadith and Takhassus fil Hadith. Maulana Idris and Maulana Ghufran.
Yes, mashallah.
So there was a connection there where I got some information of this madrasa from, and Maulana Ghufran, Maulana Idris helped me out a lot, and just letting me know, the system and the management, how things work around over here. And other than that, on a broader spectrum, my father, he was actually Mufti Naeem Saab's really good friend.
Oh, and mashallah.
He also went to Hajj this is 10 years ago. He went to Hajj with Sheikh Abdul Hamid Ghari Saab, the Sheikh al-Hadith over here. So ever since then, whenever my father would travel from America to Pakistan, he would come, visit Mufti Naeem rahimahullah and Sheikh al-Hadith Saab. And there was that connection, but my father never imagined me coming to study takhassus fil fiqh over here. And also last year in our Dawratul Hadith class, Sheikh Aziz Rahman Hazarvi Sahib, who also teaches, he's a Ustad al-Hadith over here.
He's an Ustad.
So he taught us Sahih Muslim online. So I was really affected in the sense where, you know, there's a teacher from there, and then I had ta'alluqat from my father from before. And then we had two of the students study here as well. So I thought this would be a good opportunity, and I reached out to Sheikh Hazarvi Sahib as well. And he told me it would be a good idea. And even my teachers from Michigan Islamic Institute, where I studied previously, where I graduated as a alim from, they encouraged me that our Sheikh al-Hadith over there, Mufti Asim Rashid Sahib, he encouraged me that, you know, you should take that step and go ahead and go study takhassus, and go study, do specialization in fiqh.
So you're a Hafid as well?
Correct.
Where did you complete your...
So my journey of Hifz started when I was young. I was about 9 years old, and the story is pretty simple. My parents came to me, they asked me, hey, Abdul Haadi, do you want to become Hafiz like your older brother, Saad?
Like your older brother?
Yeah. So my brother had finished Hifz at that time. So I looked at my brother, and I was really young at that time, had a really narrow mind. So I was like, hey man, you know, he's getting gifts, he's getting all this respect, and you know,
there's nothing wrong with that, right?
Yeah,
like,
this is something
it's
awesome.
It's a glory that every kid's inspired from, right?
Right.
Maybe they see someone.
So I thought that was something awesome, you know, like I want gifts, I want respect, I want, you know, these are things that people like, obviously. But later on, you know, a lot of the true haqiqah, you could say the reality of being a hafiz of the Quran and how much of a blessing it is, it truly showed. And my parents came to me, they asked me, would you like to become a hafiz? I said, yeah, definitely. I really think what my brother did, becoming a hafiz of the Quran, is something praisable, something really nice, and I want to follow his footsteps. Mm-hmm. So my parents, they decided to take a big move. They sent me, and this time Michigan Islamic Institute, they didn't have a boarding facility at that time. Okay. So this is, you could say, 2016. My parents, they decided to send me to England with my older brother.
Oh, to England?
To England. So I was in Bolton, England for 3 years. That's where I did my Nadhara and my Hifz. And prior to going to England, I also had you know, the Qari Sahibs that you have from...
the Skype Qari Sahibs.
Yeah, the Skype Qari Sahibs.
Those are well known to every Western...
And subhanAllah, I was at a previous TV station where they had an interview, and somehow he's seen it, and he sends me a message.
But just recently?
Just recently.
So your old Qari Sahib.
My old Qari Sahib. And subhanAllah, it's crazy because my youngest brother, he's 7 years old, and he studies from the same Qari Sahib. And
he's a generational Qari Sahib.
Generational,
MashaAllah, what barakallah put it.
And he was, mashallah, you know, qualified and such a beautiful voice. So I also took an inspiration from him. You know, I would come back from school, my mom would cook some food, we would sit down, eat together, and then my mom would say, chalo, jaldi karo beta, jao, wuzu karo, topi pehno, jubba pehno, jaake baitho, Qari Sahib aa rahe. So that's where it started from. And then, you know, my parents came to me, asked me, would you like to become a hafiz? Is it okay if we send you to a different country? So I told them, I was like, yeah, there's no problem. Everyone else goes to different countries. So at this time, I was thinking like it's going to be like a hotel. You're going to get, you know, continental breakfast, wake up, and it's going to be all nice.
You thought it would be just like our other vacations.
Right. And at that point, when we went to England, we went as a family. And my older brother was with me. He was 12. He was 12 years old. I was 9 years old.
So was he also involved in other...
Yes, so my older brother, he completed 4 years of his Aalamia program, but he went on to college. Yeah, in the UK, and then he went to Michigan Islamic Institute as well. Okay. So he spent 2 years in England, and then he went 2 years to Michigan Islamic Institute, and he completed 4 years and went on for college. And as for me, it was because I was the younger one. it was more easier in the sense where I had someone to, guide me, my older brother to hold my hand, and, this is how to do things, this is how to memorize your sabak, this is where you're going wrong, this is what you need to focus on. So there was always that, father figure in my life.
Yeah.
So, alhamdulillah, people say that you go to boarding schools, you don't have parents with you, you don't have this, you don't have that. But the biggest blessing is, honestly, that you have Allah with you, firstly. You don't realize that earlier. You realize that much later on because of certain situations that you get into madrasa and the environment that you're in. You're constantly praying on time, you're constantly doing your adhkar, you're constantly making dua. So you build that relation with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we see how that resembles with the life of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam as well. Because the Prophet sallallahu grew up without parents as well. And the only factor between him and his parents were Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala took the Prophet ﷺ under his care, and that's the reason why the Prophet ﷺ was the greatest man to ever walk on this earth. So that's where the journey of Hifz started. We went to England and my parents enrolled me over there for 3 years. And my teacher, Maulana Sohail Bapu, I'm also in contact with him. So all of my teachers, alhamdulillah, that taught me from like ibtidai, from a beginning level, I'm in contact with all of them.
So this teacher was in the UK or in Michigan?
Yes, he's in the UK. Okay. He's from Preston, UK, and he would drive half an hour every day to come and teach at the madrasa over there. So I did my hifz with him, completed with him, and then I returned back to America where I furthered my studies into becoming alim.
Well, mashallah, really beautiful way to put it. And it's known and understandable that there's a lot of sacrifices from many different people put in for one student to raise in society and become a leader. Starting off from your parents, your parental, all these sacrifices are made, and I bet there's many challenges that you were facing as well. What were some of those? If you can mention them.
I wouldn't say challenges in the sense where I never got anything out of them. The challenges that were placed in my life is no doubt from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But I really think that if those challenges weren't there for me...
More like opportunities.
Opportunities, yeah. If those opportunities weren't there, and you could say challenges as well. If those opportunities and challenges weren't there for me, I wouldn't become the person I am today. And there's always room for improvement. So you're always improving every stage of your life. And some of the challenges were, the moment you take a decision on the base of your emotion, you will regret it to a certain point. But if you're committed and dedicated, then you'll be thankful to the people that put you in that position. You'll be thankful to your own self in a certain way. Because, for example, if you think about parents, they have 3 children, 2 of them are out of the country. You see them once a year for Ramadan. It's a pretty big sacrifice. And as time goes by, it becomes more valuable in the eyes of society, where people go out to different countries to study, because it is a big sacrifice for your parents. Sometimes your parents are elderly. Sometimes they need help from you. Sometimes they need to get, the housework done, groceries, things of that sort. They need to get done at home, and they look back and they see that, oh, our son's not here, our kids aren't here. So, but they sacrifice for Allah. They sacrifice for a better outcome. Allah. And that's why I believe that parents that come from that type of background, where they send their students, when they send their kids out to dini madaris, to institutions to learn deen for Islamic tarbiyat, I think those kids, they earn their parents' du'as in the truest form. And you see it later on in their life as well. So I think those were some of the challenges where, there was a separation from your friends, from your family. There were moments in my life, in my madrasa life, where my cousins would get married, and it would be a big thing for the family. But sorry, man, I'm in madrasa,
You have to come back in Ramadan and get to know them once again.
Right.
Who they were. And
right. So there's always that gap. And then my baby brother, Hashir, when he was born, I was in England that time. So I wasn't able to, witness his birth and be there for him.
Yeah.
So there was always, but I don't regret that. I see that as something, as a blessing of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because I wouldn't be doing anything else besides anything for the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, besides serving the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, besides serving the institutions, besides studying the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, so that other people can benefit at large. You leave things now for a better outcome.
What other mentors did you have along this time? Because it's not easy to cope with it yourself. You always definitely need that support along the way. As humans, we're all weak, and sometimes we just need that reminder and that boost from someone that we trust and love to help us accomplish what we're
I think one of the biggest mentors in my life, after my mother, is my father, obviously. Your parents, they come first. So I can say with pride, I take pride in this, because there's a lot of students in Madaris, they're studying and they don't have 5 minutes to call home. But every single day, I take out 5-10 minutes in my day, even if I don't have time, 5-10 minutes just to text my mother and my father, or to call them, or to leave a voice note. And because now in Pakistan, because of the studies getting intense, I leave them a voice note, because there isn't the same, accessibility.
Timings are different.
Time zones are different, and then your parents are either working or they're teaching, and they're involved.
Class and it's,
So it's the schedule is all over the place. So there isn't a day that goes by, and I can say that with pride, alhamdulillah.
So then you make your way here to Binoria through all those different connections.
In terms of the mentoring part you're asking me, so my parents were always there. If there was any issue I would have, because my mother is a alima as well. So I would be able to connect to her on a madrasa level. Hey, Ammi, I'm having issues with this.
So she's already experienced that.
Correct.
Now it's much easier
She's
for
been
her.
through the study, she's been through the sacrifices. And at that time, when she was doing her alima course, I was about 5-6 years old. So she was taking care of the house, the kids, everything else, and then she was doing her alima course as well. And anytime I would have issues in madrasa, any problems, I would always call my mom, and subhanAllah, the first thing my mom would tell me, Beta, did you make dua? Did you pray 2 rakats? Okay, I need you to do that. Go pray 2 rakats, salatul hajat, pray to Allah, cry in front of Allah, tell him what your issue is, and then come talk to me. So that was always there in the beginning. And then there were a lot of mentors that were there in my life outside of my madrasa life, right? And one of them, Sheikh Mushfiq Qubayli, rahimahullah, he actually passed away last month. He was one of our, you could say, youth directors of the community over there.
In Michigan?
In Houston.
In Houston, okay.
In Houston. And whenever I would come back home, I would message him, Sheikh, you want to hang out? Let's go out to eat.
He was more on like a...
Right, he was more brotherly.
Friendly basis,
yeah. And because he also did Hifz with my brother, he was my brother's classmate. So whenever I would come back, my brother would tell him, and we would go out to eat and relax and, spend time together. And any issues I would have in madrasa, anything. And honestly, the reason why my parents sent me to a different country and even thought of that was because Sheikh Mushfiq. Because him and his brother, they had studied from South Africa, and they had completed their Aalamia course, and the eldest brother became Mufti. And they came back to Houston, they started serving the community right away. So they took that as a big inspiration, and we were really affected by it as well, personally, because I got to spend a lot of time with him, and we would sit down, do mashq together, we would recite together, we would sing the sheets together. So it was really, that friendly basis. And then obviously my older brother, he would be there, and
always being that older brother,
always supporting you. Anything you need money in madrasa, you need food, you need snacks. You know how it is, madrasa life.
No, they understand it, and
you get empty sometimes. You're like, man, what am I doing here? I need someone to be with me. You get lonely.
Yeah.
So my brother would always be there. I'm coming. I'll see you tonight. I'll do this. I'll do that. So alhamdulillah, there were a lot of mentors, and there's many that I probably haven't mentioned. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is granting them the rewards and the fruits of what I'm doing today.
Now you come to Binoria and for your ifta, as you
For
said.
تخصص في الفقه.
So how does the studies differ from America and Pakistan? What's the difference in terms of the academic part?
If you look at academic-wise from a secular basis of studies, I would say that there's a lot of opportunity over here. I think Sheikh Norman, Hafidhullah, has done a really good job, who is a muhtamim over here. He's done a really good job in providing opportunities for the takhasus students. So recently there was a Islamic banking program that came up, and there's IT programs coming up, e-commerce, and different opportunities, different things that people can advance in after their studies from a dunyawi perspective.
Yeah.
As far as Islami studies are concerned, I think one of the challenges and one of the differences that I faced over here was reading in Urdu. Speaking wasn't an issue for me, but most of my Aalamia course that I completed in Michigan Islamic Institute, our teachers taught us in Arabic and English. And there wasn't much reading in Urdu. So the first couple years, they do give you books in Urdu, but even that they teach you in English because there are students there that don't fully understand Urdu. So that's one of the things I found different over here, that there's a lot of reading in Urdu over here.
Yeah.
Like if you look at one of the books in Takhassus in the Nisab over here, Imdadul Fatawa, which is written by Sheikh Ashraf Ali Thanwi Rahmatullah Alayh, Hakim al-Ummad Sahib. His way of writing Urdu is a qadim manner, meaning it's like
classical Urdu.
Classical Urdu, you can say Shakespeare English.
Yeah.
So it's pretty hard to read certain words or understand certain things. But alhamdulillah, you're here to study, you're here to improve.
Yeah.
And you have amazing teachers here.
Yeah.
Mufti Ilyas Sahib, such a loving personality. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala prolong his life and take the work of deen from him. When I first came, I was actually frightened. I looked at all these books. I've never done this much mutala in my life. And I've never, read Urdu books, like 23 pages of Imdad al-Fatawa, 5-10 pages of, other Urdu books. And then you have these small Urdu books that are about 4 or 5 of them. You have 10 pages in those.
Each day.
So I went straight to my teacher. I was like, Mufti Sahab,
how do I do this? What's going on?
Thoda mushkil hoega mere liye. How should I manage this? Beta, aap fikr nahi kare. And he's so relaxed. आप फिक्र नहीं करें, आप पूरी कोशिश से अपना काम लें यहाँ पे, आप जिस मकसद के लिए आए वो मकसद पूरा करें. ये मोबाइल फ़ोन है, इसका कम इस्तेमाल करें. दोस्तियाँ, यारियाँ, मदरसे से निकलना, इसका कम करें. और बाहर निकलना, होटलों पे बैठना, खाना पीना, इसका कम करें. So he basically set the foundation of if you want to actually reach that goal of you being able to read Urdu in mannerable fashion and in a fast pace, then these are the things which will stop you. And if you can take care of these things,
so he assessed the problem and he helped you solve it, right?
Correct.
And
correct.
You probably knew of all these things. I have to reduce my social life if I want to pursue this education.
Right. Because when I was coming to Pakistan, in my mind, I had that, okay, this is takhasus, this is not alim course. So the schedule is going to be much more relaxed. We're probably going to wake up at 10, 11, go to the Darul Ifta. We're going to solve some masail, take out the hawala, give it in. But it's actually much more advanced and tough.
Much more intense, yeah.
So I wasn't ready for it, honestly. But alhamdulillah, with the help of the teachers over here, Mufti Ilyas Sahab, Mufti Nadir Jan Sahab, and the other teachers into Darul Ifta, and then you have classmates as well that help you out. A lot of the classmates have studied here in Binoria as well, and in other parts of Pakistan, Darul Karachi. They have much better understanding of the way they look at text.
Yeah, and they can always guide you in.
They can always explain it to you. So explaining wise, speaking wise, it wasn't a challenge. But reading Urdu, it took time. But alhamdulillah, now when I look at it from the first day till now, alhamdulillah, I see a big change.
Hey, when were you going to develop this skill, right? You got to learn how to read Urdu.
Alhamdulillah for that. And and like how I said, the whole mentoring situation, I spoke to my father and my mother and told them about the situation. He said, don't worry about it. Work hard, make your teachers proud, work on yourself, invest in yourself. This is not only going to help you right now, but it's going to help you afterwards as well.
You're also a nasheed artist and a really beautiful reciter of the Quran. How did you find out that you had a talent and you had a really good voice and it could really be effective and inspiring to other people?
So if you look at my parents' background of how they got closer to Deen and how they grew up, you'll understand this better. For example, my father, he was working in the showbiz for about, pretty much his whole youth. And he was with Junaid Jamshid rahimahullah, Moin Akhtar, and Amjad Sabri rahimahullah. All of these, the people who have passed now. And there's a lot of old people that work in the showbiz that are not in showbiz anymore. So there was always that point where my father would tell us about his stories, his old stories. And I would listen to my father and, just, you listen from one year, you take it out from another year. Yeah, it's just old jokes and old kahaniyas. It's not worth listening to. And whenever my father would talk about Junaid Jamshid rahimahullah, I would be really affected by the way he would talk about him and how he changed his life and how he was an inspiration to others. And even at that time, while Junaid Bhai, he was singing and he was in the showbiz, my father told me one amazing quality he had, that there were so many people that they would talk bad about others, that, oh, this guy doesn't know how to sing, he shouldn't be in this role, he shouldn't be, playing this role, he should, the manager assigned him the wrong role. But Junaid Jamshid rahimahullah, he had the quality of not speaking bad about others behind their backs. And even from before he, went through the whole transition of coming to Deen and Tabligh and, serving the Deen. Before that, he had so many good qualities that my father would speak about, and, he would say a lot of crazy stories about him too.
So your father's known him since then?
Right. My father grew up with these guys. And he was in the showbiz pretty much since he was 16 years old. So since that time, and one of the first shows of Junaid Jamshid rahimahullah, his first concert actually in Oklahoma, my father had it done in his academy over there. So my father was his producer as well, and he was a drummer at that time. So it was pretty cool,
so he was really related with all this.
Right, so it was pretty cool, like, listening to my father in that sense, where, like, I was a drummer before, and, like, now you have...
So you found out this story wasn't like those where they had to travel 40 kilometers through Mount Everest to get to school.
Right.
This was actually something that really inspired you.
So that was something that really inspired me. And then when I was young at that time, and that time Junaid Jamshid rahimahullah, he would come in Jamaat to America, or he would come for programs and events. And then there were times that, and I was young, I was about, you could say, 8-9 years old at that time, before I went to madrasa. At the time when my father would travel to Pakistan, and he would bring the family with him, we would go meet Junaid Jamshid rahimahullah. So my father had that connection with him. And whenever Junaid Jamshid rahimahullah would come to America, my father would always go meet him. Wherever he would be, he would come for certain events, certain performances, my father would go meet him. So that was really inspiring to me, of the way he changed. And then the way Sheikh Tariq Jameel Sahib, he speaks about him, that, all of his khidmat that he did for the deen. And in a famous poem, Maulana Tariq Jameel Sahib, he says, Bichara kuchi sada se kirut hi badal gayi, that ye ek shakhs sare shahar ko viran kar gaya. That this one
about
man... About Junaid Jamshid rahimahullah. And it was something so, outstanding to me, that, man, I want to be like this person. Because this person strived to be like Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So it all connects back to the chain of wanting to be like Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, or doing something in your life which is in the love of the Prophet
In the love of Rasulullah.
like how he sang so many nasheeds, and he had that passion. So I love it, man. Like, even though I get nervous when people ask me, hey, Abdul Haadi, come sing a nasheed for us, or you have to perform tonight, or you have to do this, you have to do that. I get nervous, but inside my heart, I feel that, Allah has chosen me for this. And it's actually a big blessing if you think about it, in disguise.
100%. So what's your favorite Junaid Jamshed nasheed?
I think I have many favorites. I can't restrict it to one.
Yeah. Because
each are beautiful in its own way of how the lyrics are murattab, their sequence.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of nasheeds that he sang as a hamd, which is in the praise of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And there's a lot of, most of them, which he has praised the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So there's not many, but that I can restrict that I like these certain nasheeds.
Yeah.
But
no one much melody or
I would say his classic, right? Mera Dil Badal De. That's all-time favorite.
That's an all-time favorite, everyone.
So it just hits different. It resonates deeply, and it gives you that different feeling.
It does. Yeah, takes you to a totally different world. And let's hear some lines.
میرا غفلت میں ڈوبا دل بدل دے میرا غفلت میں ڈوبا دل بدل دے خواہش والا دل بدل دے میرا غفلت میں ڈوبا دل بدل دے خدایا فضل فرما دل بدل دے خدایا فضل فرما دل بدل دے بدل دے دل کی دنیا دل بدل دے میرا غفلت میں ڈوبا دل بدل دے گنہگاری میں کب تک عمر کاٹوں گنہگاری میں کب تک عمر کاٹوں بدل دے میرا رستہ دل بدل دے میرا غفلت میں ڈوبا دل بدل دے.
Any other Urdu nasheeds that you're really inspired by, or you really have a connection with?
There's many. There's one hamd that Junaid Jamshed also recited. I'll recite a couplet from that.
Okay, inshallah. Sure. What's it called?
It's called Yaar Rahe Ya Rab Tu Mera. Yaar Rahe Ya Rab Tu Mera.
دونوں جہاں میں جو کچھ بھی ہے سب ہے تیرے زیر نگی جن و انس و حور و ملائک عرش و کرسی چرخ و زمین کون و مقام لائق سجدہ تیرے سوا اے نور مبین کوئی نہیں ہے کوئی نہیں ہے کوئی نہیں ہے کوئی نہیں اب تو رہے بس تا دم آخر ورد زبان میرے الہ لا الہ الا اللہ لا الہ الا اللہ لا الہ الا اللہ لا الہ الا اللہ.
MashaAllah, you really created an atmosphere of tranquility and inspiration around us all right now. So you also do you also recite nasheeds in English?
I do, but
English and Arabic.
I do recite nasheeds in English, but there's only one or two of them that I recite. Because I think Urdu is the most beautiful language in terms of poetry
definitely.
In terms of anashid and naat.
And it being your native tongue, of course, it resonates with you much more than other languages. So, so in English, who would be your favorite artist you kind of go and listen to?
In English,
because of course it's your second language, if not first, right? Like living there, you probably always kind of have.
In English, I would say Zayn Bika. He was
everyone's childhood favorite.
Right? So I listened to a couple of nasheeds. Mountains of Mecca.
Oh man.
Allah Knows. I Remember Your Smile. These are 3 of his nasheeds that I've listened to. I've memorized.
Can you hear some of it?
I'll recite to you Allah Knows.
Okay. Perfect.
When you feel all alone in this world and there's nobody to count your tears, just remember no matter where you are, Allah knows. Allah knows. When you carry a monster load and you wonder how far you can go, with every step on the road which you take, Allah knows. Allah knows.
So, any Arabic favorites? And can you hear any of it?
Yeah, there's a famous Qasida Burda.
Qasida Burda, yeah.
So that's a go-to.
Inshallah. Bismillah. Inshallah.
مولاي صل وسلم دائما أبدا على حبيبك خير الخلق كلهم محمد سيد الكونين والثقلين محمد سيد الكونين والثقلين والفريقين من عرب ومن عجم مولاي صل وسلم دائما أبدا على حبيبك خير الخلق كلهم.
Who are your favorite, some of your favorite reciters, from being the imams of Masjid al-Haram, or just other imams or Qur'an in general? Who's someone who really, really inspired you, and someone whose voice really resonates with you?
I would say, in terms of on a normal basis, from the imams of Haram, I've listened to Sheikh Shuraim, Saud al-Shuraim, a lot.
Man, what a classic.
And he's an all-time classic. I probably listened to him in my hifz more than I've heard any other reciter. So he always stuck with me, and alhamdulillah, even till today, I don't try to copy him, but it just automatically comes up.
It just has like that effect in
right, because you've listened to it for so long. So you've picked up the lahja, you've picked up really the tone,
smooth flower, and
right. But in terms of reciting slowly and more beautifully, I would say the likes of Sheikh Fahad al-Kandari. He is also from Medina. He's not from Haram. He's not the Imam of Haram. And also Sheikh Abu Bakr al-Shatari. He's one of the Imams from the UAE, I believe. He also came to our madrasa in England, where I recited in front of him. So my principal over there, Maulana Suhail Mania Saab, Hafidhahullah, he had told me that you're 9 years old, you're the youngest student around here, and you read similar to his style. So I want you to prepare this, and I want you to prepare this portion, and I want you to recite this when he comes. So our Muhtamim Saab in Darul Uloom Bolton at that time, Maulana Suhail Mania Saab, he had a really close connection with the Imams of Haram and Imams of the UAE and Saudi Arabia, and in that region. So oftentimes they would come. So Shuraim was an all-time classic. Abu Bakr Shatari, he was also one of them. Sheikh Fahad al-Kandari, Sheikh Mishari, he's
of course
classic. And there's many others as well. Sheikh Mahir al-Mu'ayqadi, Sheikh Ali Jabir. And there's times where in Ramadan, there'll be, the youth that will come up to you in the masjid, and they know you can recite in certain styles. So they'll say, Sheikh, can you recite in Sheikh Mahir style today? Can you recite in Sheikh Mishari style today? So there will always be, that balance. Okay, I can recite in this style, I can recite in that style. So I always try to work on my voice where I can recite in different tones, not limit to just, one specific tone.
So as an experienced qari and someone who's listened to various different qura and actually imitated many of them, who would you recommend for a starting up student, someone who's starting up to either, whether that be starting to memorize the Quran or starting to perfect their voice? Who would you recommend?
I would say in terms of starting to memorize the Quran, since it deals a lot with tajweed
and stuff.
I would say the more classical and the old Qurra, like for example, Sheikh Minshawi.
Oh, Husari.
Or Khalil Husari, yeah. So these guys are, the big shots in that where they focus a lot on tajweed and the recitations focus on tajweed. But in terms of voices, you have all the Imams of Haram pretty much. And then you have other, mashallah, there's a lot, there's a large variety of Qurra nowadays. You go on YouTube and you see someone reciting and he has a beautiful voice.
Yeah.
So in terms of voice, there's a lot.
There's a lot
of
so options. Starting up, definitely.
But starting up, they say that the grandfathers of knowledge. So I would say you refer back to those people who, set the bases and, they had that
in the media world, of course. Right, yeah. Right. So your recitation that your go-to, what would that be? Is it like a blend of different Qur'an, or is it something that just naturally you kind of figured out that, hey, this is something that I want to?
It depends mostly on my mood, or if it's requested by someone that if you can do some slow recitation, or if you could recite in Sheikh Ayub style. I remember there was a student here from California earlier last month. So I was leading here in the masjid, and he came up to me and said, "Hey, do you know how to recite in Sheikh Ayub style?" I was like, "Yeah, I can." He said, "Can you please do it for me?" And so much love. He just came up to me. So I told him, I was like, "Definitely." And I recited, and at the end of the day, you look at the outcome. You're inspiring people. You're the imam. Yeah. You have the haqq of your musalli, the people praying behind you. Their haqq is that they listen to a good qari. They listen to a person who reads with tajweed.
So it increases their love for
their Quran. Love and their devotion in the salah. Right.
MashaAllah. So what are some of your favorite verses to recite in terms of recitation that you think that this is something that my voice really fits into, or something you've always kind of heard?
I wouldn't restrict it to a certain portion. I would say it's more open-ended and vast. But subhanallah, the Quran is such a book where you find not just one beautiful passage, but many beautiful passages. So there's always stories in terms of the Quran, the story of Musa, and then there's reminders of akhirah, there's reminders of what this worldly life is, and there's reminder of death, there's reminder of why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created us. So there's all these beautiful portions in the Quran where you can take from and recite. So you honestly recite based off of your emotion from that.
Yeah.
Not that you're copying someone, you're imitating. You can imitate the voice, but it's based off of your emotion, of how you perceive the ayat, and your understanding of it.
The topic that's being read.
Right.
Or
so,
the ambience.
For example, the way my teacher would recite, since he spent more years studying the Quran and having that grasp of the knowledge of the Quran, he would recite them in a different manner than I would recite, because I understand the ayat completely in a different manner.
Yeah, I
get it. It's based off of the way you understand.
Your own personal connection to that ayat.
Right.
And how it was basically how you learned from that ayah and what effect it had in your life.
Right.
And the voice will, of course, just follow suit according to that. Yeah, and as a professional vocalist, of course, I know
I
you are,
of course.
Yeah, no, it's really hard to maintain a voice.
It is difficult.
The way you have. What would you recommend for someone? Of course, there's always that diet, taking care of a certain or following a certain diet, or staying away from a certain group of foods and trying to turn towards different ones, what would you recommend?
To be honest, I'm the wrong person to ask that question.
Yeah.
Because if there's anyone that does take care of their voice, it's not me. I'll eat, if you put ice cream in front of me, I'll eat ice cream. If you put something cold in front of me,
And be
I'll
like
eat that.
10 out of 10 right after.
Not 10 out of 10, but there's always that you're continuously you're exercising your voice. You know, you need that. And I think that, yeah, if I did follow that diet program, I would be able to perform at a much higher level. But I think, subhanAllah, there's people with better voices and that don't follow a certain diet. You know, they don't follow certain rules and regulations where my voice has to be a certain way, so I can't have cold, or
and they're shining the brightest when it comes to performance.
For example, you know, our seniors, Sheikh Idris and Sheikh Ghufran, mashallah, they had way beautiful voices.
Raw talent, totally.
And I remember Idris, he would always have a bottle, a thermos in his hand with honey and lemon inside it, or green tea. And whenever he would open it, I would smell like something smelling like strawberries.
The aroma just comes in.
Right.
Depends on what tea he chose.
So, and the amount of years Idris and Ghufran, Sheikh Idris and Sheikh Ghufran had spent in perfecting their voice, it was a huge amount of years that they took in.
It was a really big struggle for them to get where they are, of course. Yeah. Like for certain people I know, when it comes to Salat al-Tarawih, they make sure they have a really, really light iftar. And they really need that.
So Ramadan is different. Ramadan is different for me.
Yeah, but you also need that energy, but at the same time.
So in Ramadan, the way I am in Ramadan, I tell my mom, okay, iftar time, I'm going to have a date, and then you have to make me green tea. So we'll pray Maghrib, I'll have my green tea, have a couple dates, and trust me, I'm as hungry as you can think. But because you have to fulfill that haqq of being an imam, and
it's a lifetime of sacrifices.
Right. So you can't put yourself in that situation where the imam has to, you know, excuse himself for a minute, or the imam is, you know, coughing in salah, or he can't read because his iftar was too big.
You always have to be shining and be ready.
It's a right upon, it's a haqq for people. So you always have to be ready in that sense.
So, alhamdulillah, mashallah, it's really educating for all of us. Can we hear some of your recitation for the audience, and some portion of the Quran that recently has been really a highlighted part for you?
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم أفحسبتم أنما خلقناكم عبثا وأنكم إلينا لا ترجعون فتعالى الله الملك الحق لا إله إلا هو رب العرش الكريم ومن يدع مع الله إلها آخر لا برهان له به فإنما حسابه عند ربه إنه لا يفلح الكافرون وقل رب اغفر وارحم وأنت خير الراحمين صدق الله العظيم.
Jazakallahu khairan kathiran, mashallah. It was really heartfelt. Of course, you're here in Binoria Media. You're doing many different projects, and inshallah we'll get to see them soon. How's it working with them, just briefly, and how do you think it can help you to get where you want to be in this field?
In terms of Binoria Media, alhamdulillah, it's a good opportunity. I think for students who are studying in madaris, that want to perfect this field and get to a professional level in their skill. I think Sheikh Nouman Saab and Mufti Naeem rahimahullah have set a really good foundation in terms of raising the standards of their students and giving them confidence. Because oftentimes you'll see in madaris where students will have a certain skill that they're really good at, but because they have no platform, they have no confidence, they have no teachers to pat them on the back and let them know that give them that confidence
that you can do it.
Because of that, a lot of students don't advance in certain fields, even though they're talented in that field. So I think Sheikh Nouman and Binoria Media has really done a great job
of brushing off all that fear and
giving you that confidence and opportunity.
No, mashallah, we're deeply thankful to them. And now, as we're concluding, I would like to say, what advice would you give to someone who's willing to pursue this line of study, or someone who wants to advance in their vocals and wants to be a nasheed artist themselves? What advice would you give to them, whether that be from merging your different your worldly life with this Islamic studies commitment? So how would you advise them to cope with all this?
So, as you said, Islamic studies commitment. It is a commitment, right? That firstly, your studies are out the way. So a person who is, graduated and he has completed, all of his studies in terms of his Islamic studies, I think that person should honestly just go ahead and start this career, go ahead and get into the real world and, begin this journey. But as for students, I think it's important to know who you are firstly. So firstly, you are a student at Jamia Binoria, and then your second skill is that you like to recite nasheeds, or you like to recite the Quran, and you honestly, the way I think about it is that you give more time to your studies because you're a full-time student, and the time that you have left from being done from those studies, your free time, you use your free time,
utilize that
in perfecting
your talents.
Right. So you need to see that what role you're at in your life. Are you a student? Are you working? Are you married?
Of course, priorities.
Right.
And then these things when it comes to
your priorities matter. And right now, as for me, my priority is that my studies are continuous.
Require your attention at this point of life.
And takhasus is not something where you go to class and just read and you move on.
It's not a weekend course.
It's more of a responsibility because the whole ummah, they'll
eventually rely on you.
They're depending and they're relying on you. Yeah. So it's a haqq upon the ummah as well. So you take step by step, and inshallah through that, I think any person will flourish if they have that determination, the confidence, and they have the azam. You have to make the azam and that niyyah that I will do this, and you take a step towards it. And
1,000-mile journey is,
and Allah will open the doors for you. And obviously, you need that connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because without dua, you cannot reach anywhere, wherever you need to go. So
what are some mistakes that you made throughout your career that you would advise to other youth as a leader, as a student? That some things you think that if I would have done a little better, or if I would have given this a little more attention than this, I could have done a little better in life, just for the youth to kind of connect with and be better at?
I honestly, I won't have much things to regret about because of the environment I was in. I think the most important thing for a person is their environment. And so long as you're in a good environment, you continue to work on yourself and you continue to leave your bad habits that push you back in attaining where you want to be. So I think, in terms of like madrasa life, I think getting close to your teachers I wish I could give more time to my teachers and sit with them, but because of the studies being in the way, it's a barrier, and this is what comes with the responsibility after you graduate from your madaris of how close you are to your teachers and how often you call them and you ask for their du'as. So having that connection with your
always
teachers.
having contact with someone who can always guide you when you're in time of need. MashaAllah. So now we would conclude, of course. I would wish you good luck in your career here and inshallah in life. Hopefully we get to see you change many other people and get to where you want to be yourself personally. You truly have a remarkable voice and a lasting impression on the listeners. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put barakah in it and make it affecting and heart-changing for many others around the world. Alhamdulillah, now we would like to thank Mulana Abdul Haadi for being here with us today, and we would wish him good luck in his life and his study career here in Binoria, along with his nasheed and Quran recitation career. We would conclude this podcast, and inshallah we would see you guys soon. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.